Hi, welcome Alf Stewart from Searchlight Resources. You had news, I think yesterday, mostly about the results from your bootleg exploration program, which was just about 3 drill holes, I guess. And, you know, the market didn't seem to take it especially well. There was a little bit of a sell-off. So how do you interpret that mismatch between, maybe potential mismatch between the results that the company provided and the perception in the market?
I think the market was looking for thick intersections of high-grade gold and or a massive copper find. We were actually doing a 4-hole program. Yes. And we had a dream target of finding a copper zinc massive sulfide ore body, which would have instantly made 50 times on our money. And some of the long shot gamblers may have been disappointed with our results. Yes. But we're about building long-term value in Searchlight. And our objective was, first of all, to see if there was good structures hosting gold at our Henning Maloney mine. Yeah. And we have a property, as you know, we've got 3 former producers. These former producers, we think, have significant more gold resources that weren't extracted in the past. Yes. And we were testing the proof of concept. And there's 2 styles of gold deposits. There's
before you, sorry to jump in here, before you continue, I think we should draw the attention to the maps. Maybe you can, I'm sure you can see them as well. This is where the projects lie. These are the 4 previous past gold producers, and they're just 10 kilometers south of Flin Flon, pretty much, which is renowned to be the mining center in Saskatchewan, and mostly actually known for base metal production, dominated by Hudbay, obviously. So it's well understood that gold has been neglected for actually almost more than a half a century, I guess. I think those past producers were in production in the 40s of last century, correct?
Okay, so the new core mine was in production in the 40s. Yes. The Henning Maloney in the 1930s. And shut down at the beginning of the Second World War. The Weecatch was produced in the 1930s. The Rio mine was operated from 1983 to 1987. And it's actually got a modern underground development. So in the worst case, we believe that the Rio mine infrastructure can be reactivated as a small scale high-grade mine. They never actually mined the deposit at Rio. They simply developed it, and due to economic circumstances went bankrupt before they established production. It's kind of interesting how things were done 50 years ago. These days, everyone wants to establish a 43-101 resource, which is a high engineering standard of knowing what the resources are. Yeah. But in the 1980s, once you had a high-grade gold intercept, you built a mine, and then you developed your resources as you went along. We call that process bootstrapping. You use the cash flow to expand your facilities. What happened?
Which ironically suits the name of Bootleg Lake district. This is
yes.
Okay, bootstrapping is not your approach. I get that.
Right. So our approach is not like that. We know that in modern times we need to establish a much larger mine. We need to establish our target is 100,000 ounces a year. That's what we want. We want to find a resource sufficient to produce at that level. The old scale mines were typically 25,000 ounces a year. So you would need 4 mines to make a modern gold mine. And just coincidentally, we have 4 former producing gold mines. Yeah. And the other thing that I'd like to tell your investors is ask yourself, where in the world would it be most economic to produce gold? And then look at this picture. I would suggest that 8 kilometers outside of Flin Flon is one of the best areas in the world for economic production. Look at everything that's there. Look, there's a tailings pond. There's a community with mining personnel. There are roads. There's hydroelectric power. There's water. And there's supportive governments.
Okay. before you continue, Alf, let me draw the attention to the slide on the, or to the image on the right-hand side, because that is a little bit more, let's say, goes into more detail of what this current drill program was designed to be, and what it was, what the purpose of it was. Obviously, and that's referring to a conversation that I had with Stephen Wallace, the CEO, the other day. To me, the irony is that the red stuff, the red blob is the mine, obviously, the historic mine. The yellow is a fault, but that was only mapped in sometimes later, before they. So the guys that developed that mine didn't actually understand that they were on a fault system. So we built the whole, or you built the whole exploration program around the fact that, you know, there might be an extension to the Henning Maloney along that fault system, correct?
Yes.
Is that pretty much the way I look at it?
That's correct.
Okay.
And you mentioned a conversation with Stephen Wallace, and Stephen, his previous assignment, he worked for a company called Tradewinds, where they found part of the largest open pit gold mine in Canada. And so he has the skill set and knowledge to find another large open pit gold mine, and he believes this area has potential for exactly that.
Yeah, so that's really the angle that you're coming from. Of course, drilling at first, and we will go into the results a little deeper on the next slide. But the way you look at those historic projects is that you see you want to test their potential for being turned into an open pit, small scale production scenario versus doing the full underground development as a start. Is that summing it up correctly?
Yes. And as we've discussed, the mining here was done 50 years ago. And 50 years ago, there wasn't sufficient capital in the local mining industry to develop a large scale mine. And, you know, we're talking about large trucks and shovels, but we're also talking about extremely low grades. You can mine economically 1 gram of gold per ton.
Yeah.
And if you look at our drill results, we've hit 1 gram per ton in multiple structures.
Yes. Well, that's the other thing. It's not a vein hosted system. It seems to be more of a disseminated gold type system.
Yes.
So that is an encouragement, I gather. Which brings me to the next slide. I hope you can see it as well. So those round structures, what are they supposed to tell us here? Those round dots.
So traditionally, small scale, high grade gold mines are focused on veins. Yes. And what I think is really exciting about this is these aren't veins. These are fractures. Just ask your listeners to visualize hitting a piece of glass and the fractures that occur. Yes. And imagine those fractures being filled with gold. The more fractures, the more chance for a bulk tonnage deposit. And what we've found are multiple structures in our drill holes, and it's entirely open in all directions. So historically, people were focused on one fracture where they could go in and call it a gold vein and mine on a small scale. We're looking for multiple structures, and our thesis is developing well. That's what I find so encouraging, is that we're finding new structures that were previously unknown, some of them very high grade. Yeah. And surprisingly, where we drilled through the Henning Maloney structure itself, we got modest grades when we know historically they produced 1 ounce per ton. Yeah. This is typical in the gold mining industry. In fact, there's a saying among gold miners, drill for structure, drift for grade. And what that means is that when you drill, you may not assay high grade gold, even though you're drilling right through a gold structure. You just want to identify the structure by getting some assay for gold. Yeah. And then you go in with a larger sample. That's what we mean by drifting. We mean go in and take a larger volume of rock and sample it to come up with the appropriate grade. So the success that we've had is that we found multiple structures. So we found the structures. Now we have to drift for grade. That really means we have to take more drill assays in the same area, and our resource will fill out and the grades will increase.
And will those, well, it's maybe too early to say whether they're going more to depth or along strike of that fault that one can see here at Henning Maloney.
Right.
Let me jump to the next, or the last slide really, which is a cross-cut through the three drill holes one after the other that the company drilled, and that show that they were all pointed towards a magnetic structure. And that's interesting because getting close to it, that was probably also the purpose of those drillings. And interestingly enough, the last hole that hit that 1 ounce material, or close to 1 ounce material, and then unfortunately was stopped, is very close to that magnetic anomaly. And unfortunately, I don't have an image showing the plane view of this, but I know that it is a blob and it expands a little, and it really, you know, is a teaser to look what's coming here and what's coming along strike of this structure, right?
Okay, so here's the interesting thing. You've got on this crosscut a little black rectangle at the surface. That is the historic shaft at the Henning Maloney mine. Well, yeah. And the structure was interpreted as dipping to the right. And so basically the red bars represent the gold assays.
Yes.
So if you connected that, that surface black rectangle to the red bars high up in the drill holes, that's the Henning Maloney structure. Everything that we hit deeper and closer to this magnetic anomaly is new information. These are new structures. So what we see looking at the structures is there isn't one narrow structure at the Henning Maloney mine. There are multiple structures, and all of this stuff could be encompassed in a large open pit. And we clearly didn't drill far enough because we're right on the, looks like we're right on the edge of a magnetic anomaly. And we know our mineralization is magnetic. The gold occurs with pyrite and pyrrhotite. Pyrrhotite is a magnetic mineral. So it's intriguing that we got the highest grade golds very deep in the hole and very close to that magnetic anomaly.
Okay, well, absolutely. And talking about depth, its vertical depth is about 140 meters here, isn't it?
That's right. So anything up to 300 meters depth can be economically extracted with open pits.
Yeah.
So this is medium open pit depth.
Yeah. Well, well, leads me back to this image. Obviously, there's a lot of. I think, would you agree that you found the recipe and now you have to follow that recipe and just do more drilling?
Yes, we have to find where the high grade fractures are. Yes. You can see why we selected the Henning Maloney. These yellow lines represent major fractures.
Yes.
And what we're finding on a detail scale is there are multiple fractures in between.
Okay.
And we have a magnetic survey and a software processing that locates where these fractures are most likely. That's the circles on this map. You can see we have multiple targets.
Yes.
Right here. We're very excited about this. We've proven the concept that this is not a narrow high-grade mine district. This is a potential for bulk tonnage mine. Not to say that we couldn't find a high-grade mine, but both concepts are entirely open. But the idea of finding a large trucks and shovels deposit has never been tested. And that's what we're doing.
Okay, and that leads us to the real mine, which wasn't the target of this campaign, but you did an exploration program there, I think 2 years ago, which, you know, when reading through the numbers I found that, you know, quite compelling and quite impressive, the numbers that you got there. Can you just remind us what you got there? Same concept, I guess.
We got multiple intercepts, 5 grams over 4 meters, 2 grams over 19 meters, 2.5 grams over 5 meters approximately.
Okay.
So those are historic drill results. And again, this proves the concept that the gold is not confined to narrow vein structures, but multiple fractures. these are not quartz veins. These are sulfide fractures in greenstone.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited about the results.
And actually, looking at the overall geology, and I'm not a geologist, but it's not surprising to me. The Flin Flon mine, the 77777 mine run by Hudbay, I don't know how deep that is in the meantime, but it's you know, it's probably half a kilometer or deeper. I'm guessing.
It is.
So
800 meters.
800 meters. So there is a lot of, it's not surprising that there's a lot of depth to those systems. That said, maybe a lot of depth to those systems. That said, you're not, you don't have the funds to go deep. You need to look for the shallow, low-hanging fruit here.
That's right.
Okay, good. You want to talk about corporate ways ahead? The company, you know, had now its first round of drilling on and to prove up this concept. What's next?
Well, as we've indicated on the crosscut, we didn't drill deep enough on hole number 3. We have to go back and drill that magnetic anomaly. Yeah. And it'll be up to the geologists to see whether we go in again with a hole from the same side, yeah, or whether we come in from the other side and scissor it. But yeah, that's a target. Then the circular areas that we showed on the map, all of those things need to be drilled. Those things are low-hanging fruit. So we're very excited about testing those anomalies, particularly where the yellow lines are coincident with the circles. Those are the areas where the fractures coalesce and where the higher grade and more concentrated gold deposits are likely to be found. Those targets have never been drilled. This is just obvious low-hanging fruit. Okay, we didn't go into all the other stuff that Searchlight has on the books. Just incredible amount of square kilometers of untested licenses in Saskatchewan. I think we should keep that for another time, and maybe, you know, there's even maybe we'll see something happening down the road where things are getting a little bit cleaned up between the gold and the base metals here. Alf, if you don't have anything, a closing remark, I'd like to just call it for this time and look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you, Sven.
Okay, thank you.